Captain's Log Galactic date for 7/99/26. Captain Nix Vega spoke into her personal recorder, her four eyes blinking in perfect synchronization as she stared through the observation window of the research vessel Stellar Mind. Today marks our first official study of what the humans call their emergency preparedness protocols. She paused, mandibles clicking in what her species considered a laugh the very phrase sounds. Like something from a children's safety manual, Dr. Telos, Bry, her chief researcher, floated nearby in the zero-gravity chamber, his bioluminescent spots pulsating with barely contained amusement. Captain, you simply must see this, he called out, gesturing to his hollow screen. With one of his 6 appendages, the humans store their emergency supplies in what they call bug-out bags. The primitive construction of these containers is quite frankly hilarious. NYX glided across the chamber, her silver-scaled skin reflecting the soft blue light of the ship's interior. Show me, she commanded, trying to maintain her professional demeanor. Despite her growing skepticism, the hollow screen displayed various images of human emergency kits, backpacks filled with basic tools, dried food packets, water purification tablets, and what appear to be incredibly rudimentary medical supplies. These are considered state-of-the-art by their standards, Telos explained his spots now pulsing with purple mirth. No quantum generators, no atmospheric processors, not even a basic matter replicator. Fascinating, Nix remarked dryly, and they expect to survive catastrophic events with these containers of primitive tools. She reached out with one scaled hand, manipulating the holographic image to examine a particularly basic item labeled Firestarter. Are they aware that we developed pocket-sized fusion reactors 3 millennia ago? The ship's artificial intelligence area chimed in with its melodious voice. Captain, I feel compelled to point out that human survival rates in emergency situations are remarkably high despite their technological limitations. Thank you, Arya, NYX responded, waving away the comment with a dismissive flick of her tail. But surely those statistics must be flawed. No species can consistently survive using such basic tools. She turned to her second-in-command, Commander Zara Flux, who had been quietly analyzing the data in the corner. Commander, your thoughts? Zara's crystalline form sparkled as she moved into the light. The data suggests we should conduct a practical observation, Captain. The Galactic Council requires thorough documentation before we can officially classify their emergency response systems as primitively inadequate in the Universal Species Registry. Very well, Nix sighed, her scales shifting to a slightly annoyed shade of green. Begin selection protocols for human test subjects. But mark my words, this will be the shortest research mission in the history of the Galactic Science Division. Telos pulled up another hollow screen, this one showing various human emergency scenarios. Should we start with something simple, perhaps a level 2 planetary disaster? We wouldn't want to overwhelm them with anything too challenging, he suggested, his voice dripping with sarcasm. No, NYX replied, a predatory smile spreading across her face. If we're going to do this, let's do it properly. Set up a level 5 simulation, multiple environmental hazards, complete infrastructure. Collapse the works. She paused for dramatic effect. Let's see how they're precious. Bug-out bags handled. That the research team burst into what humans would recognize as laughter, a mix of clicking sounds, light pulses, and crystalline chimes. Only area remained silent, its process professors quietly calculating the probability that its organic counterparts were about to receive a rather humbling lesson in human resourcefulness. Begin preparations, NYX commanded, stretching her scaled wings. And someone please archive these, meeting the alien research team images of their emergency kits in our primitive technology database. Future generations of researchers will need a good laugh. As the team dispersed to their stations, none of them noticed a small notation in Aria's latest data update warning human survival capabilities frequently exceed initial assessment parameters by an average of 47,000 per recommendation. Proceed with caution, but then again, whoever bothers to read the fine print in computer warnings? These are our selected test subjects. Captain Nix Vega's voice carried a note of disbelief as she reviewed the holographic profiles floating before her. They seemed rather unremarkable. Marcus Mac Rodriguez's profile rotated slowly in the air, a stocky man with laugh lines around his eyes and a perpetual half smile. His credentials listed him as an emergency response coordinator, whatever that meant. Next to him floated the image of a Martian, a wilderness guide whose longest survival expedition had lasted Merely 3 Earth months, barely a blink, in galactic time the other two. Our equally unimpressive Dr. Telos Bry added his bioluminescent spots, pulsing with amusement. Blake Thompson, some sort of urban survival specialist apparently. That means he knows how to navigate concrete structures without modern technology. And Kira Patel, a medical professional, who still uses primitive tools like stethoscopes and bandages. Commander Zara Flux's crystalline form refracted light across the room as she pulled up the simulation parameters. The testing environment has been prepared according to your specifications, Captain. We've created what humans would consider a worst-case scenario. The massive hologram in the center of the room came to life, showing a detailed landscape that would make any sensible species cringe. The simulation zone stretched for 20 square kilometers, featuring an active volcanic system. To the north, a rapidly approaching superstorm. From the south, and a completely disabled power grid to add extra spice. They'd thrown in a few toxic gas pockets in some unstable terrain, and you're certain the safety protocols are in place. Nix asked, more concerned about their expensive equipment than the humans. The last thing we need is these primitives damaging our observation drones. All safety measures are active. Arya confirmed, though something in its artificial voice suggested it might be holding back a laugh. If AI could laugh, the humans will be inserted into the simulation zone in exactly 47 minutes. Each has been permitted to bring only their personal emergency kit and whatever they're wearing. The research team had established 12 observation posts around the perimeter, each equipped with quantum sensors, atmospheric analyzers, and multispectrum recording devices worth more than the entire GDP of a small human nation. The post hovered silently, cloaked from human detection by technology so advanced it might as well have been magic to their test subjects. Captain, one of the junior researchers, called out their gelatinous form, wobbling with excitement. You simply must see what the human called Mac packed in his emergency kit. The contents of a basic backpack appeared in holographic form: some dried food, water filters, basic tools, fire starting equipment, and what appeared to be several small packets labeled coffee. What primitive species still relies on chemical stimulants? Telos wondered aloud, making notes in his datapad. Surely they've developed basic neural activation technology by now. Apparently not. NYX replied, her scales shifting to an amused purple. Commander Flux, begin the final countdown. Let's see how long these humans last before they signal for rescue. My bed is on less than 6 hours. A ding pool quickly formed among the research team. The most optimistic estimate gave the humans 12 hours. The most pessimistic, suggested by a particularly cynical junior researcher, was 45 minutes. As the countdown began, the humans were teleported to their starting position. The research team watched through their high-tech observation systems as the test subjects oriented themselves, checked their equipment, and did something completely unexpected. They smiled. Are they laughing? Telos asked, incredulously adjusting his sensors. The atmospheric readings show lethal gas concentrations within 2 kilometers of their position. The ground stability index is critical, and there's a volcanic eruption due in less than 12 hours. What could possibly be amusing about the situation? Through the observation feeds they watched as Mac pulled out his first packet of coffee. Amara began analyzing the terrain with nothing but her eyes and a paper map. Blake started gathering materials from the surrounding area, and Kira organized her medical supplies with practiced efficiency, recording devices at maximum sensitivity. Commander Flux announced all observation posts are active, and tracking quantum sensors are calibrated to detect even the slightest sign of distress or surrender. Captain Nix settled into her command chair, her tail curling around its base. Now we wait. Area begin official documentation study of primitive human emergency response protocols. Test phase 1, expected duration 6 hours or less. Prediction: the test begins. Complete failure of survival strategies due to technological inadequacy. The AI seemed to pause before adding its required confirmation stamp to the log. If anyone had been paying attention, they might have noticed. It also started a separate recording file labeled Human Resilience Study, evidence of advanced adaptability in technologically limited species. But nobody was paying attention to the AI. All eyes, sensors, and recording devices were fixed on the 4 humans who were about to give the most technologically advanced research team in the galaxy a lesson. They'd never forget. The clock started counting down, and the show was about to begin. That's not possible, Dr. Telos Bry stammered. Bioluminescent spots flickering in confusion. They're using the toxic gas pockets to their advantage. Captain Nix Vega leaned forward in her command chair, all four eyes narrowed, as she watched Ma Rodriguez purposely ignite a controlled fire near one of the gas vents. The heat created an updraft, pushing the toxic fumes away from their makeshift camp. And creating a temporary safe zone primitive doesn't necessarily mean stupid, Commander. Zara Flux noted, her crystalline form vibrating with unexpected interest. They're using basic thermodynamics to manipulate atmospheric conditions without a single piece of modern technology. The observation feeds showed a Marin moving along the unstable terrain, marking safe passages with nothing more than colored strips of cloth torn from her shirt. Look at her methodology, Zara continued. She's creating a navigation system using only visual cues and her understanding of geological patterns, but their tools are so basic. NYX protested, though her scales had shifted from their earlier amused purple to a more thoughtful blue. Thompson is literally using a piece of string and a rock to measure ground stability. Through the high-resolution feeds, they watched as Blake Thompson swung his makeshift plumb bob in a grid pattern, mapping out safe zones with surprising accuracy. According to our sensors, one of the junior researchers reported his primitive measurements have an 87% correlation with our quantum stability readings. Captain Arya chimed in. Dr. Patel's activities might interest you. She's currently creating what appears to be an air filtration system using layers of fabric charcoal from their fire and plant materials. The research team collectively turned their attention to Kira Patel, who had indeed constructed a series of surprising effective filter masks. The sensor readings confirmed a 92% reduction in toxic particle infiltration. How are they communicating? Telos wondered aloud, adjusting his instruments. I don't detect any electronic signals, no quantum entanglement, not even basic radio waves. As if an answer, Mac raised his hand and whistled 3 short bursts, followed by 2 long ones across the simulation zone. The other humans responded with similar signals, creating a simple but effective communication network. They're using sound waves, Nick said flatly, her voice carrying a note of disbelief, like animals in the wild. Effective, though. Zara pointed out, no power required, no technology to fail, and the gas actually helps carry the sound in interesting ways. The betting pool was suddenly very quiet. 6 hours had come and gone, and not only were the humans surviving, they were thriving. They established a base camp, secured a water source using nothing but gravity and makeshift filters, and even set up an early warning system for volcanic activity, using techniques that made the research team question their own reliance on technology. Captain, one of the junior researchers called out, their gelatinous form quivering with excitement. You need to see this. The humans are there having a meal together. Sure enough, the observation feeds showed all 4 humans gathered around their control fire, sharing food, and most shockingly, Laughing Mac had somehow brewed his coffee using heated rocks in a fabric filter. The aroma causing several of the alien researchers to wonder if they should include chemical analysis of this coffee in their report. Notice how they're sitting, Zara commented, backs to each other, covering all angles of approach, even while resting there, maintaining tactical awareness. Telos was frantically updating his research notes. Their use of basic tools shows a deep understanding of fundamental physical principles. They're not just surviving, they're innovating. Captain Arya interjected, might I suggest we reconsider our initial classification of their emergency protocols as primitive, perhaps elegantly fundamental would be more accurate. NX's scales had completely shifted to the deep blue of serious contemplation. Update the official log. She commanded, note that human emergency response strategies demonstrate unexpected levels of adaptability and efficiency. Also, she paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully, make a special note about their ability to maintain group cohesion and even positive morale under extreme conditions. Through the feeds, they watched as Blake used the remaining daylight to teach the others humans show their skills as ground stability testing technique, while Amara sketched out tomorrow's planned routes in the dirt. Kira was showing Mac how to improve his makeshift water filter using layers of sand and charcoal. Their laughter carrying clearly through the observation devices. Should we increase the simulation difficulty? T suggested weakly, knowing even as he spoke that his previous dismissive attitude had been embarrassingly misplaced. No. NYX replied, her voice carrying a new note of respect. Let's see what else they can teach us as if on cue the volcano rumbled in the distance. Instead of panicking, the humans simply checked their handmade warning systems, adjusted their positions according to Amara's wind calculations, and continued with their tasks. The research team settled in for what was proving to be a very educational observation period, though perhaps not in the way they'd originally expected. Captain multiple system failures in the simulation controls Commander Zara Flux's crystalline form pulse with alarm patterns. The volcanic activity sequence has broken containment. Captain Nick Vega's scales flashed danger red as she processed the implications. What had been a carefully controlled simulation was now spiraling into actual danger. The holographic displays showed cascading failures across their safety protocols, turning their test scenario into a very real survival situation. How bad? She demanded. All four eyes fixed on the emergency readings of volcanic activity has triggered a chain reaction in the underground gas pockets. Dr. Telbright reported his bioluminescent spots, now pulsing emergency patterns. The simulation barriers can't contain it. This is now a real threat to them and our observation posts through their feeds. They watched as the ground began to split open, releasing genuine toxic gases. The carefully regulated atmosphere turns truly deadly, and the approaching superstorm, previously just a special effect, merged with the heat from the volcanic activity to create a meteorological nightmare. We have to extract them, Telos shouted, reaching for the emergency teleport controls. Wait area's artificial voice cut through the panic. Look at their vital signs. The humans had already noticed the change. Ma Rodriguez stood at the edge of their camp, holding a makeshift wind sock crafted from strips of his jacket. His voice carried clearly through their observation devices. This ain't no drill anymore, folks. Those gas pockets are real, and that storm's about to make one hell of a toxic cocktail. Instead of panic, the humans displayed something that left their alien observers speechless. They grinned. Finally, Blake Thompson called out, already recalibrating his primitive plumb bob measurements. I was wondering when this simulation would get interesting. Amara Chun had her paper map out, marking new features. As the landscape changed, the real gas flows will follow the terrain patterns. Mac, we need to expand your thermal updraft system. Kira, those filters of yours about to get a proper field test. Captain Zara reported, her crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. They're not only adapting, they're using the real danger to improve their survival strategies. They watched in amazement as the humans swung into action. Mac and Blake worked together to create a network of control burns using the genuine toxic gas flows to create safe corridors. Kira rapidly produced improved filter mass, now incorporating mineral elements she previously identified in the soil. Amar's navigation system evolved into a comprehensive hazard map that even the alien researchers found themselves referencing. These readings can't be accurate, Telos muttered, hitting his sensors in frustration. They're showing better survival probability calculations than our emergency protocols would achieve. The humans had formed a perfect survival unit. When the first massive gas pocket erupted, they were already moving to higher ground, using Mac's expanded thermal updraft system to create a breathable pathway. As lightning from the superstorm ignited random fires, Blake's terrain analysis helped them stay on stable ground. Look at their problem-solving methodology, Zara remarked, her scientific curiosity overwhelming her concern. They're not just surviving, they're turning every new threat into an advantage. They watched as Kira Patel handled their first real injury, a deep cut on Blake's arm from flying debris with nothing but basic supplies. She performed what the medical sensors classified as surprisingly advanced field surgery, using honey from her emergency kit as an antimicrobial agent and crafting a pressure bandage from available materials. Captain 1 of the junior researchers called out, the humans are approaching observation post 7. Indeed, the group had identified one of their cloaked observation posts as a potential shelter from the storm. What happened next would be talked about in galactic research circles for decades. Hey, Max shouted up at the apparently empty air, gesturing with his half-empty coffee packet. We know you folks are up there in your fancy invisible sci-fi box mind. If we bar your roof for a bit, storm's getting nasty, and that shimmer in the air looks mighty solid. The research team froze. Captain Nix's scales cycled through 6 different colors of shock that they can see our cloaked post. Not exactly, Amar's voice carried up to them, but the rain shows up funny when it hits your force field plus your thermal signature, is pretty obvious if you know where to look for nice tech. By the way, the humans had not only identified their observation post, they'd figured out roughly how it worked, and now they were planning to use it as part of their survival strategy. This is unprecedented, Telos whispered as Spot's barely glowing in his shock. They've weaponized their primitive observation skills to identify and utilize technology they don't even understand. Through it all, the humans kept moving, kept adapting, kept surprising their observers. When a particularly violent tremor threatened to cut off their escape route, Blake rigged up a bridge, using nothing but rope from their emergency kits and fallen trees. When lightning struck too close, Kira showed them how to use their metal tools as a makeshift lightning rod network. Cap Arya announced, its artificial voice carrying an unmistakable tone of satisfaction. I feel compelled to inform you that the humans have now survived longer under these actual dangerous conditions than any of our emergency response units managing simulations. Nyx's scales settled into a deep shade of respectful azure. Update the official records. She commanded classification of human emergency response capabilities to be immediately elevated from primitive to masterfully fundamental. Add a special note about their ability to identify, adapt to, and utilize unknown everything goes wrong variables, including our own technology, under genuine threat conditions. The betting pool had long since been forgotten. The research team watched in professional awe as their test subjects not only survived but mastered their accidentally hostile environment, using nothing but basic tools, fundamental physics, and what they were now recognizing as characteristically human innovation. These primitive beings had turned a potentially lethal situation into what appeared to be, based on their continuing laughter and jokes, an exciting challenge. As if to put a final exclamation point on their performance, Rodriguez chose that moment to brew another cup of his coffee, using the heat from a nearby lava flow to heat the water in a makeshift rock bowl. Now that's what I call field expedient, he announced cheerfully, taking a sip as a massive lightning bolt illuminated the toxic clouds behind him. Anyone else want a cup might as well enjoy the show. The most advanced sensor systems in the galaxy recorded 4 humans surrounded by lethal danger, sharing coffee and laughing together beneath a shield of a cloaked alien observation post they discovered through pure observation and logic. And somewhere in the ship's database, AA quietly updated the human survival capability rating to include a new category warning: probability of underestimating this species 100% by the Galactic Council. They're actually improving their situation, Commander Zara Flux announced, her crystalline form practically vibrating with excitement. The observation feeds showed the humans had not only survived the night, but had transformed their emergency shelter into what their sensors classified as a surprisingly efficient survival outpost. Captain Nyx Vega watched as M. Rodriguez conducted what he called a morning briefing, using a stick to draw detailed plans in the ash-covered ground. Her scales had permanently shifted to the deep blue, a profound respect look at their resource management system. D'Artelis Bry pointed out, his bioluminescent spots pulsing in amazement. They've created a water collection network using nothing but emergency blankets and volcanic heat differentials for condensation. Through their high-resolution feeds, they observe Amar Chun teaching others how to identify which local plants could be used to supplement their supplies. She'd somehow created an entire botanical identification system using only visual markers and simple taste tests. Captain, a junior researcher, called out their gelatinous form barely maintaining cohesion. An excitement you need to see. Blake Thompson's latest innovation, the urban survival specialist, had constructed what their sensors identified as a multi-tiered environmental monitoring system using nothing but string, some rocks, and carefully balanced sticks. It could detect incoming tremors, gas pocket releases, and atmospheric pressure changes with nearly 90% accuracy. Compared to their advanced equipment, these achievements should be impossible with their technology level. Nyx stated, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Telos, begin recording a special addendum to our research logs. Recording. Captain TS confirmed, spots glowing steadily. Special research note regarding human emergency response capabilities. Previous assumptions about technological requirements for survival must be completely revised. Humans have demonstrated the ability to replicate advanced technological functions using only basic materials, and understanding of natural principles, the humans, unaware of their profound impact on galactic research, continued their impressive display. Kira Patel had expanded her medical station, creating what their sensors classified as a remarkably effective field hospital using only the contents of a basic first aid kit in locally sourced materials. Watch this. Zara called out, directing attention to a new feed they're about to test. Their warning system. The observers fell silent as Blake's simple mechanical sensors detected an incoming tremor 3 seconds before their quantum equipment registered it. The humans smoothly enacted their evacuation protocol, moving their entire higher camp to higher ground with practiced efficiency. Note for the record, Nix continued, humans display an unprecedented ability to create complex systems from simple components. Their understanding of fundamental natural principles appears to be so thorough that they can bypass the need for advanced technology entirely. In many situations, Captain Arya interjected, I've completed my analysis of their problem-solving methodology. Would you like me to share my conclusions? Proceed. The humans consistently demonstrate what I would term reverse evolutionary innovation. Instead of relying on technological solutions, they mentally work backward to fundamental principles, then build upward using available materials. This allows them to recreate advanced functions. Without advanced technology, the research team watched as Mac used the heat from their cooking fire to create a pressurized water system for their camp using nothing but be like plants and some emergency cord. Furthermore, Arya continued, they appear to treat technological limitations not as obstacles, but as creative challenges. Each solution they devise is tested, improved, and taught to others, creating an exponential growth in their survival capabilities. And exascales rippled with acknowledgement. Update classification of human emergency responses from masterfully fundamental to evolutionarily transcendent. Add special notation regarding their ability to transform survival knowledge into replicable systems. Through the feeds they watched as Amara taught the others how to predict weather changes by observing cloud patterns and wildlife behavior. Her accuracy rate matched their atmospheric modeling computers. Captain Telos reported his spots now pulsing in patterns indicating scientific excitement. I've identified another remarkable aspect of their methodology. They're not just surf diving, they're establishing sustainable systems that could theoretically support them indefinitely. The evidence was clear. The humans had created a renewable water supply, a sustainable food gathering system, secure shelter, and even what aliens learned their lesson appeared to be the beginnings of a small agricultural project using seeds from their emergency supplies. Note for final report. Nix commanded human emergency preparedness cannot be measured by technological standards. Their ability to understand, adapt to, and manipulate their environment transcends conventional survival metrics. As if to emphasize this point, they watched Mac show the others how to create an emergency signal mirror using nothing but water, an emergency blanket material. The resulting device could theoretically be seen from orbit. Makes you wonder. Zara amused, her crystalline form refracting light in contemplative patterns, what they could achieve with actual access to our technology. The research team shared a moment of silence, imagining the possibilities. Through their feeds, they saw the humans gathering for another meal, sharing stories, and laughing despite the continuing environmental hazards around them. Final notation, NYX declared her scale, showing the deep azure of complete conviction. Recommendation to Galactic Council: immediate reclassification of human survival capabilities. There primitive technology, mass, and advanced understanding of universal principles that may surpass our own. Additional research strongly advised, with emphasis on learning from their methodologies rather than merely observing them. Captain Arya added, might I suggest one final observation? Throughout this entire experience, the humans have maintained what they call their sense of humor. This psychological resilience appears to be as fundamental to their survival as any physical tool. As if on cue, Mac's voice carried through their sensors, hey, I might wonder if our alien friends up there would like some coffee. Bet they've never seen anyone brew it using a volcanic heat source before. The research team watched as the humans raised their makeshift cups in a toast toward the cloaked observation post, their laughter echoing across the monitoring systems. And recording, Nix commanded her, mandibles clicking in what was dangerously close to admiration. And someone make a note We might want to study this coffee substance. Anything that helps fuel this level of innovation deserves serious scientific attention. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Science Council had never been so quiet. Hundreds of various alien species sat in stunned silence as Captain Nix Vega concluded her presentation. Her scales, now a confident shade of deep azure, and so esteemed members of the council, she announced, "I formally request the immediate reclassification of human emergency response capabilities from Category 7 Primitive to Category 1 Advanced, with distinction the chief counselor of being of pure energy." Contained within a ceremonial crystalline matric flickered. In what appeared to be disbelief, "Captain Vega, you realize what you're suggesting? No species has ever jumped 6 classification levels." At once Dr. Telos Bry floated forward, his bioluminescent spots pulsing with conviction as he displayed the final footage from their observation post. The assembled council members watched as 4 humans using nothing but basic tools and natural materials created what the most advanced sensors in the galaxy had classified as a sustainable survival infrastructure. Distinguished council members, Commander Zaraflux chimed in, her crystalline form sparkling under the Grand Hall's lights. We witnessed them turn active volcanic vents into cooking stations, toxic gas flows into ventilation systems, and potentially lethal electromagnetic storms into power sources using nothing but sticks and string. A council member from the technology division exclaimed, their cybernetic implants warring in agitation. Precisely, NYX responded, clicking her mandibles for emphasis. They don't overcome their technological limitations. They transcend them entirely. The recorded images shifted to show Mac Rodriguez's coffee brewing operation, now expanded into what their sensors had labeled as an improbably efficient field kitchen. Several council members leaned forward, suddenly very interested in the dark liquid that apparently helped fuel such innovation. But their tools are so basic, protested another council member, this one a floating collective of gas clouds. They still use mechanical fasteners, physical ropes, chemical reactions for heat. Yes, Telos replied, his spots pulsing with barely contained excitement. And with those basic tools they achieve survival rates higher than our own emergency response teams using quantum technology. The council chamber erupted in murmurs and various species-specific sounds of disbelief. ARA's voice cut through the chaos projected from the presentation system. If I may add, council members, the humans displayed another capability that our research suggests may be unique in the galaxy. They treated the entire experience as what they call a fun challenge. The recording showed the humans sharing jokes while constructing their various survival systems, teaching each other new skills between crisis points, and even organizing what they called a campfire party beneath the cloaked observation post. They discovered they found our advanced cloaking technology, one council member noted incredulously. No, NYX corrected her, the final report scales shimmering with amusement. They found the rain pattern disruption caused by our cloaking technology, deduced the presence of a solid structure, and decided to use it as a shelter. Then they invited us to join their party. The chief counselor's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. Captain Vega, your report suggests we should not only reclassify their capabilities, but also establish a new research program to study their methodologies. You believe we could learn from their primitive approaches? Distinguished Council Nix replied, standing at her full height. I believe we have become so reliant on advanced technology that we've forgotten the fundamental principles that birthed it. These humans haven't. They understand these principles so completely that they can replicate advanced functions using minimal tools. That's not primitive, that's mastery. The final recording played, showing Amara Chun teaching the others how to predict weather patterns by watching cloud formations. Blake Thompson creating a seismic warning system using pebbles and string, and Cattell turning local plants into effective medicine. Their emergency kits, Telos added his spots, now pulsing in time with his words, aren't just collections of tools, they're seeds of innovation. Every basic item can serve multiple functions, limited only by their imagination and understanding of natural laws. And the coffee asked a particularly curious council member, we're still studying that, Zar admitted, but preliminary analysis suggests it might be the closest thing to a quantum probability enhancer we've seen in organic form. The chief counselor's energy matrix swirled in what experienced observers recognized as barely contained laughter, very well motioned to. Reclassify human emergency response capabilities to Category 1 Motion to establish new Research Division Fundamental Innovation Studies, and Motion to request human assistance in teaching these methods to our own emergency response teams. The vote was unanimous as the council chamber cleared. Captain Nix Vega found herself staring at one final image from their observation period, 4 humans sitting around a campfire sharing coffee and laughing in the face of what should have been certain doom. Captain Arya's voice came through her personal communicator. Shall I update the official species registry? Yes, NYX replied, her scales shifting to a color that didn't translate well, but meant something like amused respect. But add one special notation warning. Any species assuming technological superiority over humans should first attempt to survive 48 hours using nothing, but their emergency supplies results may be humbling somewhere on Earth. At that exact moment, Ma Rodriguez was teaching a wilderness survival class. Remember, folks, he said, holding up his trusty emergency kit. Fancy gear is nice, but understanding basic principles is what keeps you alive now. Who wants to learn how to make coffee using a volcano? The galaxy would never be quite the same.